Presentation, as you'll see, there isn't any pretty diagrams. It was put together yesterday after Lee kindly gave us a slot because he thought it might be useful if we could share some insights with you in terms of our experiences with multiple clients that we work with from a contract management challenge point of view. A little bit about us. Ebit was formed in 2012. We're a procurement consultancy working with a number of clients. Retail tends to be our comfort blanket. We're working with clients at the minute whose turnover is just over 16 billion. Our normal client size is anybody really turning anything over 80 million up to 2 billion plus. I guess if we looked at an average client size, it's normally somebody who's turning over around between 200 to 250 million pounds. Our job is obviously to help them make savings. We normally generate 1 to 2% savings as turnover. We normally work with people for 6 to 18 months. And we review all goods not for resale throughout their business expenditure. And we will look at processes and procedures as part of what we do for them as well. And we operate our business on a very simple formula. We don't want any grumpy phone calls, so service is absolutely paramount as well as cost savings. Now, what I'm going to have a chat to you about is contract management, because it's been interesting. The company's been up and running for 4 years. We've constantly seen the same issues, challenges within virtually every single client that we've walked into to work with. And what I mean by that is, obviously, as part of what we normally do, the first thing we ask for is a list from AP of their top 100, for an example, top 100 suppliers. We can get that relatively easy from everybody that we work with. As soon as we ask the next dreaded question, which is thank you for that list of your top 100, can we see contracts for those suppliers? Almost without exception to date, that's when the fun starts. And we often get pointed in umpteen different directions, but I put the most common ones here on the list. And the first one we normally get pointed to is you'll need to speak to somebody in legal. And that may be 1 or 2 people, it might be an industry of several people within that department. But what we normally find is actually, yes, legal will hold contracts, but they normally only hold about 20% actually of those top 100 supply contracts. That might be due to numerous reasons. One, it may be business critical and deemed that it should be something that legal went through, sense checked and signed off. Or it may be something that the people within that legal department tend to specialise in. So it could be trademark, it could be IP, or something that they've had valuable input into. Or another scenario is that the stakeholders hold their own contract. You'll need to go around the business and basically pull them out of pedestals and ask people to hand them over. Again, we can do that, and it's very much a case of how good are those stakeholders at managing their own contracts? And again, a lot of that is down to experience. But based on the last 4 years and what we've seen, typically that would normally give us 50% coverage, and out of those contracts that we get hold of, around about 25% of those are actually out of date. There may be a procurement department in the client that we're going to work with, and again, we will sit down with procurement, and normally there's about 60% coverage. And procurement either will or won't have the headcount to manage those contracts effectively within the business. A very common answer is from an FD or CFO, I'm not 100% sure. So again, that's down to us to go around the business and find out who's holding them or to gain copies of those contracts. And the final scenario is they're filed in X cabinet. So after we've got the dusting cloth out and cleaned, probably usually an inch of dust, we will get copies of those contracts that are held in that file. And again, what we normally find is at least 35% of those that have been carefully filed away are actually out of date. So that's kind of a typical scenario that we've certainly seen across multiple clients over the last 4 years. Now, the net effect is, again, once we start ploughing through those contracts, certainly quite a large percentage are out of date. Quite often, if there's certain departments where we'll see auto renewals, IT is a classic example, where often within the business, obviously there's an end date associated with that IT contract. If you miss it by a day, you're into another 12-month period, and there's not a lot you can particularly do about it. Often rates will have charged without full awareness. So somebody's missed a contract end date. It might be something like out of contract default rates associated with the contract utilities or mobile phones being prime examples. Or actually the rates just are probably increased by RPI, and because nobody's bothered looking at that contract for a while, again, the first anybody really is aware is when we have a look at AP and find out that the rates being charged are different to what's detailed within that contract. With quite a few clients, we'll again compare the contract to actually what's happening now, and often volumes are completely different or products and services no longer match the contract that's on file, even down to supplier stock holding not in line also. We often see RPI increases year on year without pushback or challenge, again because the contract's out of date, and there's also a limited audit trail facility. In terms of obviously ways to fix, we've seen some clients who have bought an off-the-shelf piece of software in the past that they hoped would help them. And the reality is obviously there's always software available for kind of every scenario, but it's only as good as A, the adoption rate within the business, and B, how effective it is for that business and it's being used. It's not unusual for us to walk into a client and find out that they bought e-auction software in the past. And then we asked them the last time they ran an auction, and you could be talking months or even in some cases years, and they're still paying for that piece of software. So basically, because because in the end it was such a common issue across all the clients that we were working with, we got thoroughly bored of hearing the same thing. So in the end, we've actually built our own contract database software, and I'll go into that later. But the major culprits around the lack of use with some of the contract software that's on the market, this is what we typically hear. So lack of clarity surrounding ownership. So it was a good idea at the time. It was the right thing to do, but the day job got in the way. So the company obviously started loading contracts, but basically, and then ownership fell away. Lack of quality resource time. Again, certain departments within a business are really challenged. So legal especially. With a lot of clients, we will walk in and there may only be one or two heads and they just haven't got the bandwidth to be able to cope. The business lost appetite. So again, they may have bought a piece of software because at the time cost savings were hot on the agenda. Things change, priorities change, and again, the message got lost and translated down. We never truly understood it, poor training and adoption. So again, there may have been a rollout at the start, but it just wasn't followed up or cemented further within the organisation. ROI was questioned. So often, what we will see in certain clients is, yes, they have got contract management in place, but it's seriously labour intensive. There may be a small army who are starting to administer that. And actually, when you take all of those costs into effect, it's quite an expensive way to manage their contracts. And it was only part utilised. So again, it's a numbers game to a degree within certain businesses. Various stakeholders were using it effectively, others weren't, and things went back to the way that they were. Also, there's often typical business challenges. So from a CFO point of view or an FD point of view, they understand good governance is a nice thing to have, but often will basically say, well, actually, we understand why we might need it, but we've never had an issue to date. That's often that's often A, because they're not aware of contract issues where actually they have had issues, or B, they've been very fortunate. But either way, it's not good practice to obviously operate that methodology going forward. It looks time consuming. It won't be a good fit for our business. And again, that really comes down to how the software was going to be used, what it was going to be used for, and the best fit for that organisation. The usual challenge, what return will we see? So is it worth doing? And with most clients we work with, obviously internally, if you were going to promote a system for them to use that was going to impact on their own internal IT department, often it won't even go beyond position A, because normally with most clients we work with, there's about 25 IT wish list projects, and if you're looking to impact on internal IT department, you haven't got a hope. The old favourite, why can't so-and-so look after this via an Excel spreadsheet? Again, most of the clients we work with have got wonderful Excel spreadsheets that have evolved over a period of years and time. But what you tend to find is the people operating those are utter specialists. And if they left the business tomorrow, things would come to a grinding halt because somebody else trying to come in to decipher what that Excel spreadsheet meant and contained would take a considerable amount of time. And final one, okay, understand governance needs to be improved, let legal procurement manage this, but often that won't be with any additional recruitment, it won't be with any additional investment, and again, that starts to water down those departments' ability to do their day job. So we came away and we basically looked at the market in terms of who was out there that offered contract database software tools. We spoke to a few, and in the end, basically made our own mind up that actually we wanted to build something ourselves that was A, simple to use by anybody that was going to use it going forward. B, it needs to be effective in terms of how it works. C, it needs to obviously provide a guaranteed return on investment because it will be challenged at some stage, as is everything in terms of any cost base. It needs to improve the status quo and add value. And it needs to offer unparalleled payback taking into account staff costs and time spent. It needed to be flexible and then accessible and gain business buy-in. And I guess more importantly, offer potential extra future value. So we've essentially built an externally managed electronic contracts database. We've called it Adiris. The cost is around half the most junior admin salary. And I should say, this is a little bit unusual in that we've come to the market with a managed contract database piece of software. So if somebody really wanted us to supply it on a license basis and they would manage it themselves, it's an option. But actually, we've had this up and running now for 3 weeks after it's been in build for nearly 9 months. And 95% of clients who are now on the system are on the managed basis. And there's a few reasons why. One, basically we take all the pain away, so we load people's contracts on the system for them. B, we tell them when those contracts are coming up for renewal in advance, so they don't get to the stage where they're missing contract end date deadlines and running into auto renewals or out contract default rates. I guess more importantly, we've got a client database of who's paying what for what type of services, and we automatically benchmark people's contracts for those services when we put them onto the system. So when it comes down to informing somebody that a contract's due for renewal, if we have benchmark data, we will tell them one of 3 things. One, the rate you've got is absolutely fantastic. We'd recommend that you basically carry on the same terms as best as you can. Or B, we think there is X% opportunity because. In terms of the system itself, again, we've tried to make sure it was as flexible as possible. It was an interesting one. When we first started speaking to the first 20 retail clients that we work with as a prime example who didn't have anything in place, we said to them, okay, this is what we've built and what else are we missing? And certainly what we've seen is the contract database now looks very different to what we set out right at the beginning. I think there was a light bulb moment with a lot of clients who basically suddenly saw that there was an opportunity to put things like property leases onto the contracts database. That was an area where they were paying somebody else to do that. Concession franchise agreements, trademarks, IP. In fact, any confidential information can be added to it and can be ring-fenced where the client sees it, but actually we don't, even though we're managing the system for them. And again, we looked at management reporting, because we were well aware that there might be the CFO, the FD within a business who doesn't want to get immersed in all the detail, who can literally click on a button and then see by all of their internal stakeholders who's great or who's average or who's poor at managing contracts within the business. So which is essentially show how many contracts that person had got, how many had expired or how many were due to expire. So at least again from a governance piece, they were well aware at all times in terms of where things were currently sat within a business. And I guess the benefits to a business, so one, it's a constant data room that's available, especially if a company's looking to go down a company sale route or has VCs come on board. It's normally one of the first things that they normally want to see. Governance, cost control and benchmarking awareness, proven ROI, minimal internal associated costs, so it doesn't suddenly need an internal army to manage. Ability to concentrate on the day job. And again, because it's secure cloud-based, it's instant rollout. There's no impact to internal IT projects. And I guess it's been an interesting learning curve over the last 4 years, because certainly when we first set out with the business, we fully expected to see, I guess, especially clients who are turning over more than 500 million, to be more advanced than they actually are. But what we've certainly seen over the last 4 years is a lot of people try and dabble with contracts in terms of managing them, but the reality is none of them actually do it particularly well. That's not to say anybody in this room doesn't, I'm sure they do. But the reality is it's certainly an ongoing challenge, and we constantly see with every new client that we take on board numerous contracts that are certainly out of date, numerous contracts where they're falling into out of contract default rates or auto renewals, not by choice, just by circumstances. And certainly one thing that's interesting to see when we go into businesses and again asked for copies of those contracts that they've got, is there's a real disparity around the contracts that people are signing up to. So whether it's their own T's and C's and their own contracts, or whether it's actually supplier T's and C's and contracts, again, there tends to be a huge variation. So again, one thing that we built in functionality-wise is the ability for clients to put copies of their own contracts and T's and C's within a template file. So anybody within the business who is going to be signing up somebody has a library to be able to gain those documents from. And from another side, we've also put tender facilities in there. So again, there's the ability to push out tenders from the database as well. So what we've tried to do is capture all sides of the equation, but it's certainly a constant issue that we see with every single client that we work with. So it's not designed to be a sales pitch. It was designed to be really an overview of the constant challenges that we've certainly seen over the last 4 years in organisations, ranging from companies who are turning over 30 million right up to companies who are turning over 3 billion. And it'd be interesting to see who's mastered the art of contract management, I guess, that we certainly haven't seen to date. So, is there anybody there that's got a system that's utterly working 100% for them, that they've either designed in-house or that they bought off the shelf? I'd be interested to hear it, because like I say, we haven't seen it yet. Excel is probably the most popular in terms of a lot of clients that we work with, yeah.
There are lots of bespoke access databases out there off the back of Excel as well. They're just as bad, if not worse. But even if those are in place, even if you've got a spreadsheet that turns red sort of a month before the renewal, you still get the fact that the supplier very cleverly says, and here's my invoice, or here's my statement that requires your purchase order 89 days before the end of the year. What do you mean you don't want it? Well, actually, you've got to have it because, and even if you've got that, as you're saying, it's that sense of the people who are actually responsible for those contracts need to be on top of that data. And often it's not fed to them proactively enough, whereas, you know, if you have something which basically says, this week you need to be thinking about this, and this, yeah, it essentially gives you power.
Well, again, I think we built, again, the flexibility in that, again, no two clients are the same. So yes, it's our responsibility to tell them when things are coming up for renewal. But however, if they want to have some internal kind of responsibility, we link stakeholders to categories. And again, if a contract is coming up for renewal in that category, it would automatically ping a mail out to the owners of that category, and we get that a warning as well. And the reminders can be as annoying as basically we agree. So they can be sent out daily, automated, weekly, monthly, etc., etc. But basically you start to cut the excuses as to why that contract wasn't renewed in time and basically in advance when it should have been. I mean, we're well aware that on average, most of the clients we work with, probably around about 20% of suppliers they don't have a contract with, and they will argue that it's a conscious decision because they don't want to contract with that supplier for umpteen reasons. One, they want the flexibility to be able to change. Two, the business is going through transformational changes and it's not the right time to enter into a contract. But certainly the other 80%, they have normally got a formal agreement with. But obviously out of that 80%, normally we only get to see a maximum of probably 40% that are actually in date. So it tends to be wildly variant in terms of proper contract coverage.
One of the things we found is quite challenging to find a simple to use contract management system. So there's lots of shiny SRM systems out there where contract management appears to be a bit of an afterthought, and to get hold of that you've got to buy all sorts of different modules, so effectively it becomes very expensive. All systems are quite complicated and not necessarily simple to use, so you're not going to get engagement in the business necessarily because it requires a lot of training. So I don't know if that's everyone else's experience, whether there's some sort of silver bullet out there. That's certainly our experience.
Can I ask a question about the benchmarking comment that you made? So as I understood it, you take the contract, you load it, and you can do a comparison to your other clients with regard to how well the contract has been executed with regard to rates. How do you manage that with regard to the confidentiality?
Okay, so we would never divulge a specific client's details or rates, but obviously what we have got is an extensive database of rates of who's paid what for what. So you start to get an industry average. And what we're able to do from our side is obviously look to see across all of those multiple different clients using the same or similar suppliers for same or similar services, where those rates are from bottom to top of market, and start to draw a line through the middle in terms of what those averages look like.
So, just to follow up on that question, so when you're signing out a contract with one of your clients, do you get their agreement that their data can be utilized in an aggregated way, confidentially within your database?
Yeah, correct.
Yes, in our templates.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have in that, we'd have to get consent to do that.
That's right, yeah. All the clients need to get their consent for that.
Yeah,
I
correct.
know this is not a sales pitch, but I've got one question. How do you cost this? What is your cost model, and how do you price it to your clients?
Okay, so
And there are quite a lot of procurement people around the table, so I think I'm pretty sure that everybody is interested. How is it by per contract, or how do you bundle it?
Okay, so there's a threshold of volume. So if somebody's putting on 200 contracts or more, then it's a fixed fee. On the managed service, 7.5k a year. If it's below 200 contracts, then it's on a pro rata per contract upload fee.
And when you are abstracting these contracts and into database, you got, so obviously every category is different. It's different. An IT contract might be different to a facilities contract. Facilities might be different to marketing contract.
Yeah.
Obviously terminations, the roll-ons, etc. How did you train your staff to interpret that, or do you use any technology?
Okay, so in terms of our back office staff, all of our procurement consultants have got, well, the vast majority of them, 20 plus years experience. In terms of the admin staff that we've got back at the ranch, they've worked in procurement for more than 10 years. So in terms of interpreting a contract, we see them every single day for multiple different clients. In terms of obviously critical information, start date, end date, notice period are obviously predetermined fields that you need to know. And then in terms of obviously the commercials, it's a case of obviously drilling down and looking through that level of detail that's within there on a like-for-like basis as much as possible. Obviously some elements, some departments are more difficult to quantify on a like-for-like basis, especially when you start going down the IT software route. But certain consumable items are a lot easier to benchmark on a like-for-like basis.
I've got one. What's the infrastructure it's built on? So you mentioned it's a managed service. Do you mean, is that software as a service, or it's sitting on a load of servers in your office? How does that work?
So it's held on encrypted servers.
That you manage, or that another company manages?
Another company manage. And in terms of ISO regulations, etc.
No, is it another company like AWS, or is it another company that manages service, real service for you?
Real company that manages real service for us, so Ocean Digital.
So does that not raise any confidentiality issues and support issues for your clients?
No. Because again, all the data, all the servers and data is encrypted to the same as bank standard essentially. and each client has their own pipeline into the cloud, so no information shared across.
Do you gatekeep the definition of the contract on behalf of your clients?
In what respect?
Well, a contract to one is very different to another, as in what a contract is. So, you might get some legalese, not signed, no SLAs, no KPIs.
Yep.
So would you just load that? Would you, as I say, gatekeep then?
In terms of helping clients with contracts, obviously some are better than others in terms of if they've got standard documentation that they use, it's normally something that we would review when we start with them. But obviously when we come to the initial load of data, yeah, it's something that we'd have a look at. If it was literally poor in terms of content, then obviously that's something that we'd raise at the time.
What about the ongoing though? When someone just sends you a contract of some description, you just put it, because obviously these things are only as good as what's going into them.
Yeah, correct.
So the key is that governance around what's going into it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So critical data, obviously start date, end date, notice period. And in terms of the actual content within the contract, obviously what we can do is give our view in terms of critical things that are missing that actually probably should be in there from a protection point of view. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.